22nd of May 2016. This is the date Leicester did the unthinkable. They lifted the Premier League title for the first time in their history, being no less than 5,000 to 1 odds of winning the Premier League. Even looking back, people think that these odds are very low when looking at their squad at the start of the season. Leicester City pulled off what is widely regarded as the greatest upset in the history of football, and perhaps even all of sport. The Foxes defied every expectation, toppling established giants like Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester City to clinch their first ever top-flight title. At the heart of this miracle season were 3 transformative players: N'Golo Kante, Riyad Mahrez and Jamie Vardy. The pyramid climber. Jamie Vardy's story is the stuff of legend. Just a few years before the title win, Vardy was playing non-league football with Fleetwood Town. In 2012, Leicester took a chance on him, and by 2016 he had become one of the most feared strikers in the Premier League. That season, Vardy scored 24 goals in 36 league appearances and set a Premier League record by scoring in 11 consecutive matches, breaking Ruud van Nistelrooy's long-standing record. His lightning pace, relentless work ethic, and clinical finishing became trademarks of Leicester's devastating counter-attacks. More than just a goal scorer, Vardy embodied the fearless spirit of Leicester's title charge. Whether harassing defenders, sprinting in behind, or bantering opposition fans, Vardy was the heartbeat of Claudio Ranieri's attack. Riyad Mahrez, the magician on the wing. While Vardy's goals made headlines, Riyad Mahrez provided the magic. The Algerian winger had been signed for just £400,000 from Le Havre in 2014, which other Premier League signings can rival this for the greatest bargain in the history of the competition. During the 2015-16 season, Mahrez was unplayable, dazzling defenders with his quick feet, balance and vision. Mahrez scored 17 goals and registered 11 assists in the league, earning him the PFA Players Player of the Year award, the first African player to win the prestigious honour. His ability to glide past defenders and pick out incisive passes made him a nightmare for opposing teams. Time and again, he linked up beautifully with Vardy, forming one of the most dangerous attacking duos in Europe. He had some excellent moments of individual quality. Riyad's highlight reel that season alone was incredible. Whether he was curling in shots from the edge of the box or delivering perfectly weighted through balls, Mahrez was Leicester's creative engine, the humble machine. If Mahrez was the artist and Vardy the executioner, N'Golo Kante was the engine. Signed for a modest fee from Caen in France, Kante arrived in the summer of 2015 with little fanfare, but by season's end, he was regarded as one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. Kante's ability to cover ground was almost supernatural. Players who have spoken about him have said that it seemed like there were 2 or 3 of him on the pitch. He made the most tackles and interceptions in the league that season, and broke up opposition attacks with almost effortless ease. More importantly, his tireless running allowed Mahrez and Vardy to focus on what they did best: attacking, knowing Kante was there to mop up behind them. One minute he was on the left wing pressing, and the next he was at right back intercepting attacks. His influence was so immense that many credited him as the unsung hero of Leicester's title charge. A season for the ages. Under Claudio Ranieri, Leicester City combined grit, speed, organisation and unity. Their 4-4-2 system was simple, but brutally effective. They conceded just 36 goals and lost only 3 games all season. But it was the blend of talent and work ethic, embodied by Vardy, Mahrez and Kante, that turned them from relegation candidates into champions. In an era dominated by almost billion-pound squads and global superstars, Leicester City's triumph reminded the world that football still had room for miracles, and at the centre of it all were a few players who not only made history but also inspired a generation. Following on from this season, they inevitably couldn't keep this up and slowly slipped down the table. However, Leicester later produced another miracle. On May 15th, 2021, Leicester City lifted the FA Cup for the first time in the club's 137-year history, defeating Chelsea 1-0 in a dramatic final at Wembley Stadium. The victory was a monumental moment for the Foxes because of the fashion in which it was achieved. Through resilience, teamwork, and a moment of pure brilliance. The match itself was a tense, cagey affair, with both sides struggling to find clear-cut chances. But in the 63rd minute, Belgian midfielder Yuri Tielemans etched his name into Leicester folklore. Picking up the ball from distance, he unleashed a thunderous curling strike into the top corner, beyond Chelsea keeper Kepa Arrizabalaga. It was a goal worthy of winning any final and instantly became one of the most iconic moments in the club's more modern history. Under manager Brendan Rodgers, Leicester had been growing steadily, and the FA Cup win was a symbol of the progress made. It was also a deeply emotional moment, as the club dedicated the victory to their late chairman, Vichai Srivardhan Aprabha, who tragically died in a helicopter crash in 2018. The win capped a fairy tale journey for the club, from Premier League champions in 2016 to FA Cup winners in 2021, proving once again that Leicester City was no longer just a feel-good story but a force in English football. But this wouldn't last. The first major departure came in the summer of 2016 when midfield dynamo N'Golo Kante was snapped up by Chelsea for £32 million. Kante's tireless work rate, interceptions and defensive coverage were irreplaceable. His move marked the start of a slow dismantling of a side that had defied the odds. While Jamie Vardy remained loyal, turning down a move to Arsenal, others eventually moved on. Riyad Mahrez, the team's creative magician and 2015-16 Player of the Year, left for Manchester City in 2018 for a then club record £60 million. Riyad had expressed his desire to leave earlier, and his eventual exit left a creative void that was difficult to fill. In 2017, club captain Wes Morgan began to wind down his career, and midfield stalwart Danny Drinkwater joined Chelsea, though his career never hit the same heights again. Robert Huth, Shinji Okazaki and goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel would all eventually depart in the years that followed, each playing crucial roles in that fairy tale campaign. The breakup of that iconic squad was inevitable. Bigger clubs with more financial muscle picked off the key talents, and Leicester, like many mid-sized clubs, struggled to retain players who had outgrown their underdog origins. In hindsight, that title-winning team was lightning in a bottle, a once-in-a-generation squad whose magic couldn't be sustained, but whose legacy will live forever. Despite a respectable Champions League run, reaching the quarter-finals, the Foxes struggled domestically, finishing 12th in the league the next season. Claudio Ranieri was sacked midway through the season, and Craig Shakespeare took over to steer the club to safety. In 2017-18, under Shakespeare and later Claude Puel, Leicester finished 9th, showing signs of stability. That position was repeated in 2018-19 as the team began transitioning, blending experienced title winners with emerging talents like James Maddison and Ben Chilwell. The 2019-20 season marked a resurgence under Brendan Rodgers. Leicester spent much of the campaign in the top 4, but fell to 5th on the final day, narrowly missing out on Champions League qualification. A similar story followed in 2020-2021, with Leicester again finishing 5th, but this time celebrating their first ever FA Cup win, a massive milestone in the club's history. In 2021-2022, injuries and inconsistency saw the club drop to 8th, missing out on European competition. The following season, 2022-23, proved disastrous. Despite a talented squad, poor form and late managerial changes saw Leicester finish 18th, resulting in relegation from the Premier League. Also notable, they lost key player James Maddison in the summer, leaving them again with a gap in creativity. Back in the Championship for 2023-24, Leicester responded well under Enzo Maresca, dominating much of the campaign and finishing first, earning promotion back to the Premier League at the first time of asking. Over these 8 seasons, Leicester experienced the full spectrum: champions, cup winners, European contenders and relegation victims. It was a rollercoaster era that showcased both the club's incredible highs and sobering lows, defining one of the most unpredictable and memorable chapters in modern English football. The decline of Leicester City's 2024-25 Premier League campaign ended in heartbreak, as the club was relegated just 1 year after earning promotion from the Championship. What began with optimism quickly descended into chaos, disappointment, and ultimately, a second relegation in 3 seasons. While this started with Enzo Maresca's departure for Chelsea, meaning they could not continue their momentum into the new season, Leicester's relegation wasn't just the result of poor management or tactical confusion, it also reflected underperformance by some of their biggest names, alongside the inevitable challenges of a thin squad lacking Premier League pedigree. Defensive issues. James Justin, once touted as one of England's most promising fullbacks, struggled with form and fitness throughout the season. Wout Faes, a physically imposing centre-back signed with high hopes, was unable to bring the consistency needed at the heart of defence. While both players are still relatively young, their roles in the team's collapse will raise questions about whether they're up for another promotion push, or whether a change of scenery could be best. Disappointing output. Steffi Mavididi was one of the more exciting players in the early stages of the season, but his form faded fast and he failed to deliver in key moments. Patson Daka, expected to step up as Vardy's successor, was injured for the majority of the season. Both could attract attention from abroad, but their inconsistent performances may keep their price tags relatively modest. The consequences. Relegation from the Premier League marks a major turning point in a football club's journey, often bringing with it far-reaching consequences. As the top division in English football, the Premier League provides clubs with substantial financial benefits, chief among them access to massive revenue streams. When a team drops out of the top flight, those financial advantages are quickly lost. This hit can be especially damaging for clubs burdened with high wage bills, outstanding debts, and the looming likelihood of losing their top players. Once relegated, a club loses its claim to the Premier League's broadcasting pot, and instead falls under the more modest television deals available in the Championship. These arrangements are significantly smaller, with mid-table Championship clubs typically receiving between £7 to £10 million annually, with Premier League clubs receiving significantly more. This dramatic reduction in income poses serious financial challenges, particularly for clubs that had structured their budgets around top-tier earnings. For more on the shocking reality on what actually happens when a club gets relegated, click here for our video. Player wages and contract issues. The wage disparity between the Premier League and the Championship is stark, with Premier League players often earning vastly higher salaries than their counterparts in the second tier. When a club is relegated, one of the first financial measures is often to renegotiate player contracts, or release high-earning players who may no longer fit within the club's new wage structure. This leads to other clubs coming in for a relegated club's best players, with the relegated club having little choice but to sell them and get them off their books. When a club faces relegation from the Premier League, one of the toughest realities they must confront is the likely departure of their best players. This is particularly true for young talents like Liam Delap, whose performances have attracted attention from top-tier clubs. Delap has been one of Ipswich Town's brightest stars this season, and with their relegation now all but confirmed, his future is firmly up in the air. Click here for our video on Delap and where his future may lie. This may be a reality for players such as Bonanotte, Mavididi and Vatawu at Leicester. This relegation is more than a temporary setback. It poses existential questions about the club's direction, financial model and recruitment strategy. Leicester had tasted unprecedented success in the last decade, from their 2016 Premier League title to their 2021 FA Cup win. But in recent years, poor recruitment, leadership changes, and underinvestment have eroded the strong foundations built during their golden era.